So when my kid was like, I don't know, 5 or something like that, I used to drive a lift out at a place called Co-Gap. It was a plywood mill down at the end of town. It's been gone for a long time now, but one day we had a brand new Heisters, and the one we had could reach up one load higher than all the rest we'd ever driven. That I'd never seen a lift with a mast that could reach up 6 loads high and pluck that top load off. Normally you bring the 5th load in, set it down the ground, veneer, sheets of veneer, like plywood size sheets and stacks. And normally you bring in the 5th load and set it down the ground, and bring the 6th load in and set it down on top of that, and back out and pick both of them up and wait for them to get up and set those 2 on top of the other 4 so you stack them 6 high, because that's what OSHA allowed. Well, this lift could just put the 5th one up there and come in and bam, put the 6th one up there, and it really sped things up. So they installed a whole nother dryer. There was like 5 dryers to begin with, or 4. Yeah, and they installed a 5th dryer and 2 stitchers. So one day I'm back there setting 2 of these loads up at once, and it's a little higher than it should be, and the top load happens to set right on top of my rack. You got a mast and then a square rack so the loads can lean up against the rack, and the forks are under it, and the whole thing goes up the mast. The forks and the rack all goes up with the load. And it was an odd sized load. When I go to back out from almost 2 stories up, that very top load is sitting on the top edge of my rack, and it comes out. The bottom load stays. My forks are under the bottom load. I've got no control over this top load that is now riding on the mast, almost 2 stories in the air over my head. It weighs 2 tons. The lift I'm on is 6 tons. The roll cage is solid as hell. For real. Because as I'm backing out, and it's getting worse and worse everything I try, I'm tilting my forks forward, I'm trying to drive under it, I'm trying to scoot it on, trying to jam it and get it to just pop or just cooperate a little bit. I'm sitting there looking at it, and the bundler guy, the guy who measures all these loads, come over from the bundling station, and he's leaning up against my load and up against my lift, and he's got his elbow on it and his little clipboard in his hand. He's looking up at it, and I'm looking up at it, leaning over my steering wheel. And he's going, "Man, that you look like you're pretty screwed on that one." I'm going, "Yeah, I got one more thing I'm going to try, and you probably ought to step back, because otherwise there's only one way this is going to end." And he like, just for a second it twitched on him that thing is coming down. And he said, "You better get out." I said, "No, you take off. I'm not getting out from under this roll cage." And so I tried to give her one more little squirt, the last desperate little hop up thing I could think of to try to lift that load and push it back in. And it went past the tipping point. And that load went over the back of my rack, fell that entire distance, slammed in between my mast and the roll cage, and exploded. 2 tons of veneer just blam, crushed all the lights across my rack. I think it blew my tires out. Glass everywhere, crushed my fire extinguisher. I had just pulled back in time, got my hands out of the way, and didn't move, and the bundler guy was running like hell. And so the moral of the story is, they make roll cages for a reason. Don't ever get out of the roll cage. Oh, wait a minute. I got to tell you another roll cage story. Oh, I can't go without telling you. At this point where we got like 5 dryers and 2 stitchers running, I only get, short break, like 15 minutes. every couple hours or so. And during that time, they have to let a guy who's not all that good on the lift try to keep up. So ahead of time, I'm stripping everybody's stuff down low, and they know what I'm doing. It pisses them off because they got to work lower. When they're building their loads up, it gets more comfortable for them. But they know what I'm doing. Break time's coming, and I got to strip this stuff down because this other kid's going to come out and try to keep up with his dryers for just 15 minutes. And by the time I come back, it's going to be mayhem, and I'm going to spend 20 minutes getting everybody to where they're not throwing veneer up on top of these stacks. So I go and take my break, and I'm walking down to the inn. I'm going to go outside, and I'm going to go out and smoke a doobie, actually, out at the end of the breezeway where you go on out to get your fuel and stuff. And he sees I'm out for break, and he's panicked because I'm not coming to get on the lift. He sees I'm going to go out there and be out there for a minute or two, and he just come flying out there, tell me what loads are too high. And he takes this lift. It's a 6-ton lift. Comes flying off this concrete breezeway out into the dirt and cuts the wheels like he expects the back end to slide around like a car does. But Heisters don't work like that. The back end steers. So he comes flying out there, literally like 25 miles an hour on a 6-ton Heister over a drop where he's losing traction, out onto this gravel road, cuts the wheel, and the whole thing goes ass over tea kettle, slams on its side. I see him get his feet up on the roll cage, and bam, it hits the... I'm thinking, you're going to lose a leg, or a hand, something. This is going to be horrible. And it's the middle of summer. The dust is just like crazy thick. He kicked up this massive cloud of dust, and it starts to clear, and the Heister's on its side, and he's standing on his feet, standing on the roll cage, on its side, sticking out the side of the Heister, standing straight up. And he looks at me, and I'm looking at him like what are you... And he says, "Did you see that?" Yeah, man, I saw it, dude. And then, see, his hair is always like really wiry, and it went like a cat, like hair wiry. So he's all taken, he's traumatized, he's freaking out. He gets out of the thing, he's shaking. I can't do anything. The loads are going crazy in there. He's got to run in and tell the line driver to start pulling loads, a different driver inside. And I got to get the guy down at the shop to bring the big old green in lift to come down and set my poor little Heister back up on its wheels. And when it does that, it throws all the wiring and the lights and just everything, that poor machine. And the mechanic guy is cussing and screaming because he's got to stop what he's doing and get that line lift back running. And he backs out and picks it up with this giant, like 14-ton lift, and he's driving it off like a quarter mile over to the shop, and you can hear him all the way, "God damn son of a bitch, fucking trackless." Joel, he was a good man. Thank God he didn't shoot any of us. But anyway, that's my couple of my Heister stories. That's all we have for today, boys and girls. Goodbye and good luck.